It's been a wild 2 weeks, to say the least. And yes, I'm talking about the election. But anyway, let's get into it, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Eli Vilagazi. Please like and comment and subscribe. So I am here today with two of Nyathi's books. Up to date, she has written a total of 4, and these are the 2 that I have read. I am currently reading a 3rd book of hers, which I will talk about in a different video. But yeah. So the first book of hers I read is Gold Diggers, and the title is very intentionally misleading. She wanted to title it Gold Diggers so that people immediately think of, like, you know, blessed girls or sugar babies with their sugar daddies and that kind of thing. But it is not that story at all. It's a story that takes place in 2008. And it follows the story of people who decide they want to move from Zimbabwe into South Africa, and they get into a Toyota, and it kind of sees their journey across the border and then what their lives are once they get into Johannesburg. And I ate it up. I absolutely just ate this book. Maybe it was like, what, 2 days? I don't even remember. But I think what captured me about the story was, one, I find her male characters so, and this is kind of consistent across her work, across these 3 books, but I won't say much about this one, where her bad male characters are bad, end of story. Like, but her good male characters are dynamic and interesting. And there's this one male character in particular, I think his name is Udumisani. Anyway, and he's an interesting male character because, and I'll talk about this in a different video, despite his best efforts to be good to his wife and his children, it doesn't work out. And I'm not going to say too much to ruin the plot for you, but I think this book is so good for how it presents male characters, both at their worst and then at their best, even when they're failing. I'm so excited by Nyathi. Like, for me, she just encapsulates what a modern writer should be doing, right? She touches on politics, she touches on the complexities of what it means to be human. Oh my gosh, I'm like giving all the over-the-top platitudes because bravo to her. The next book that I read of hers is A Family Affair. And I did a YouTube short on this one. I did a YouTube short, a book and blush pairing for this book. And it follows the saga of 3 sisters over, I feel like I want to say almost like a 10 to 20 year time post. Please forgive the sawing in the background. I don't know what the fuck is happening, and it's very irritating actually. Anyway, now what I think is interesting about this book is that, and she does this so beautifully and so intentionally in both books, where she's very clear about the economic positioning of every single one of her characters, right? Unlike, maybe a Diane Chamberlain, for example, where wealth is just assumed and then taken for granted. It is never assumed and it is never taken for granted in Sue Nyathi's world. It is always clear and explicit where someone is standing economically. And I think the value of that is that it prevents people from falling into the trap of, oh, we're all middle class. So when I took a sociology class many moons ago, it was describing the phenomenon of everyone in America thinks they're in the middle class, right? Because nobody actually knows what poverty is in America. But even the wealthiest people are often presented as middle class, right? On TV shows like Sex and the City is like a very easy example of this, where she's a blogger but lives in New York, where it's like the financials just never add up. In American shows, people always just have money, but they're also middle class. Nyathi never ever makes that mistake. And because she doesn't make that mistake, we are prevented from dehumanizing those who have the least wealth privilege, but we're also prevented from venerating and praising those amongst us who have lots of money. So if it isn't already obvious, this story is the story of people who don't have much, who go to South Africa in search for more. Some of them make it, some of them don't, in terms of money. Whereas this one is about a very obviously wealthy family, They do not struggle for anything. They do not want for anything. In fact, by the time like 2008 hits for them financially, like they have rich people problems. They're like, oh my God, I can't afford my third property because of the government. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of wealthy family. Anyway, so it follows the stories of like three sisters as they get married, have children, start careers, end careers, touches the right balance between like chick lit, it's sexy, but it's also wholesome. I have no idea how those two things are supposed to fit together. But I think what was most compelling for me and what was most compelling in this story is that where in this book, I thought Nyathi's nuance around her male characters was at its best. In this book, her nuance and insight around women is incredible. I felt so seen reading this book. So it opens up with a wedding scene, and it is like the most African wedding scene you're gonna find. Praise names are said, and aunts give really bad patriarchal speeches about keeping your man and never let another woman rah rah rah. Marriage is an achievement. Yelele, yelele, yelele. Like the whole shebang. The whole shebang. It's so good. I'm so sorry about the light stream. Anyway, so I just loved this book so much. I'm really enjoying Sue Nyathi, and I'm really enjoying reading her in real time. You know what I mean? I read her as she drops her books, and whilst it's special to be able to say read a writer who's passed and read all of their works after they've passed, with Nyathi, I'm reading with her and I'm growing up with her, and there's something special about that too.